They laughed when she opened her mouth. Not because her words were wrong, but because they came wrapped in the rhythm of a place they'd never cared to understand. They didn't know that the accent they mocked carried storms, struggle, and brilliance. By the end of that meeting they would. The elevator doors parted with a hiss, spilling golden light across polished marble floors. Harper & Wynn Consulting occupied the top 24th floor of a Manhattan tower, the kind of office that reeked of quiet power. On the glass walls hung minimalist art that cost more than most cars, and beneath them walked men and women in designer suits, moving like a current of confidence. Amara Lewis had walked these halls for 6 years. She had joined fresh out of grad school, MBA honors, the first in her family to earn one. She had learned to smile through dismissive compliments, to translate her ideas into softer tones, to over-prepare for every meeting because her mistakes never seemed small. They echoed louder, weighed heavier. Her mother used to tell her, "Baby, if they can't hear you, make sure they can't ignore what you build." Today was supposed to be that day. The quarterly review with Titan Systems, a multi-billion-dollar client, would decide who led the company's new innovation division. Amara had spent months designing a predictive analytics model that could save Titan millions in logistics costs. It was her masterpiece, equations, market data, and sleepless nights woven into something elegant. The meeting room buzzed with pre-call tension. Her colleagues filled the long table, 12 faces, 10 white, 2 of color. At the head sat Ethan Price, the youngest senior partner in firm history. Polished, tall, the kind of man whose confidence wasn't built, it was inherited. He wore his privilege like a tailored jacket. "All right, everyone," Ethan said, adjusting his tie as assistants arranged cameras. "This presentation's being live-streamed to Titan's board. Let's make us look like the geniuses they pay for." He turned toward Amara. "You're leading the technical section, right? Keep it simple. You know how those foreign boards can be." Foreign boards. Titan was a global firm with executives from India, Nigeria, Brazil, and the US. But she knew what he meant. "Yes, I'll keep it clear," she said. Her voice carried the soft cadence of Atlanta mixed with the crispness of years abroad. A lilt shaped by travel and classrooms, one she'd grown to love again only recently. When the cameras blinked red, the meeting began. Ethan opened with his practiced charm. He sold numbers like they were stories and stories like they were destiny. Then, at the 10-minute mark, he gestured toward Amara. "And now our lead data strategist, Amara Lewis, will walk you through the core algorithm." She stood, palms steady on the table's edge. The presentation unfolded in measured waves. Clean slides, clear logic, results undeniable. Graphs climbed, costs fell, predictions aligned perfectly. For a moment she forgot the politics, forgot the glances, forgot to be small. Then came the laughter. It was quiet at first. A stifled chuckle from Jason Miller, one of the senior analysts. He leaned toward Ethan and whispered something that drew a smirk. On the other end of the table, 2 associates exchanged grins. Someone muttered, "Cute accent." Her words wavered but didn't stop. She finished the explanation, clicked to the next slide, and forced composure into her posture. Inside, heat coiled in her chest. When she sat down, Ethan cleared his throat. "Thank you, Amara. That was thorough. Just one note, maybe next time try to sound a bit more neutral on the call. Our clients come from everywhere, so clarity matters." The irony hit like a slap. Neutral in this room meant whiter. The meeting rolled on, but the laughter hung like a stain. When it ended, the Titan executives applauded, impressed by the model, unaware of the tension beneath the smiles. Ethan thanked everyone, then turned to Amara once the screen went dark. "Good work," he said, low enough for only her to hear. "Next time maybe I'll present. You've got the brains, but my voice lands better with clients. You understand." She understood. She understood the way Black women always had to, between the lines, under the breath, behind the smiles. That night, the city lights blurred through her apartment window like tired stars. Amara sat on the couch, laptop open, replaying the meeting. Every time she heard the laughter, something inside her fractured. She thought of her grandmother, who used to wash uniforms for white families in Birmingham, humming spirituals under her breath so no one could hear the weariness in her bones. She thought of her mother, who broke through corporate walls in the 90s only to find new ones built higher. Amara had promised herself that she'd be different, that she'd climb so high she could build doors for others. But tonight, Even the skyline felt like a cage. Her phone buzzed. A message from Lena, her best friend and mentor at another firm. Saw the stream. You killed it. Don't let them shrink you. Amara smiled faintly. Then another message arrived. An internal memo forwarded by mistake. Her name was listed beneath Ethan's. Pending review. Leadership consideration withheld. Concerns. Communication style, team fit. Her hands trembled. All the hours, the results, the clients who praised her. Reduced to communication style. She closed the laptop. Something had to change. 2 weeks later, Harper and Wynn prepared for a second meeting with Titan. A final pitch that would seal a 10-year contract. Ethan called the team into the glass boardroom. This is it, he said. Titan's CEO will be watching. Let's keep it crisp. No surprises. He glanced at Amara. You'll handle data slides again but keep commentary minimal. I'll take over for strategy. Her jaw tightened. Minimal. He smiled. Just until you smooth the delivery. Smooth. Like she was rough stone. She nodded, but inside a plan was forming, quiet, careful, deliberate. She knew what he was doing. Box her out, claim her work, and rise higher on the ladder she'd built. That evening, she stayed late under the pretense of refining slides. When the office emptied, she placed a discreet voice-activated recorder on the edge of the conference table. Not because she wanted revenge, but because she needed proof. At 8:15 p.m., laughter echoed down the hall. Ethan, Jason, and another partner, Linda Graham, entered with glasses of whiskey. Amara sat in the shadows of the adjacent room, unseen. Can you believe the board loved her algorithm? Jason scoffed. She's brilliant, sure, but she sounds like she just walked off a church choir stage. Linda chuckled. Don't be mean. She's good optics. We can put her in diversity brochures. Ethan smirked. As long as she doesn't talk too much. Clients like the image, not the lecture. They laughed. Loud, easy, cruel. Then Ethan added, once we land this contract, we'll restructure her role. Give her an advisory title. No client exposure. Keeps everyone happy. Amara felt her breath hitch. Her hands shook as she stopped the recorder. The air felt heavy, toxic with the truth. She left without a sound. The next morning she arrived early. The city outside was still waking. Taxis groaning, pigeons scattering across concrete. Inside, everything smelled of coffee and ambition. At 9 a.m., Ethan walked in, flashing his usual grin. Ready to impress? She nodded. Yes. More than ready. By 10, Titan's board connected on the call. A gallery of faces from Lagos, Mumbai, New York. Amara recognized their chairman, Mr. Adekunle, a Nigerian technologist known for his precision and pride. Ethan began smoothly, reciting metrics and projections. Then he clicked to Amara's section. This next portion, he said, was designed by our analytics lead. I'll walk you through it. Actually, Amara interrupted, her voice calm, steady. With respect, I'll present it myself. Ethan's smile froze. A flicker of warning crossed his eyes, but she continued. Her tone was sure, her accent deliberate, her presence electric. She explained every calculation, every nuance, weaving logic and story until even the silence between words felt intentional. When she finished, the Titan board broke into quiet applause. Impressive, Mr. Adekunle said. You have a clarity we appreciate. Ethan leaned forward, forcing a grin. Indeed. We're proud of our team. But before he could move on, Amara's phone vibrated. A message from Lena. Check Titan News Portal. Internal recording leaked. Her pulse spiked. She opened the link. The transcript was there. Ethan, Jason, Linda, their voices clear. The laughter. The words. The plan. Gasps rippled across the meeting room as executives' phones lit up with the same alert. Titan's chairman frowned. Mr. Price, is this your leadership team? Ethan's mouth opened, then shut. This is taken out of context. Amara closed her laptop. No context changes intent, she said quietly. The call ended abruptly. Silence filled the room. The heavy kind that carries consequence. Ethan turned on her. Did you? I didn't leak it, she said. But maybe the universe was tired of your noise. Outside the glass wall, staff stared. Within minutes, HR summoned Ethan upstairs. Rumors spread faster than truth. By afternoon, the firm's legal department announced an internal investigation. Amara sat alone by the window watching clouds drift above the city, light breaking through glass. The next morning, Harper & Wynn was unrecognizable. Whispers clung to the hallways like fog. The media had already picked up the story. Top consultancy under fire for racist remarks leaked an internal recording. Phones buzzed. Statements were being drafted. Faces that once looked at Amara with polite indifference now avoided her entirely. By noon, Ethan Price's office door was shut. HR entered with folders. When it opened again, his face was ashen. He walked out carrying a single box, the universal symbol of corporate exile. Jason followed 2 hours later. Linda, the partner who laughed the loudest, resigned before sunset. But for Amara there was no celebration, just silence. A silence that felt heavier than victory. She had spoken truth into a room that never wanted to hear her. And now the echo was shaking walls she hadn't meant to destroy. That evening her phone rang. The caller ID read Titan Systems. She hesitated, then answered. "Ms. Lewis," a deep voice said. "This is Chairman Adekunle. I hope I'm not intruding." Her heart quickened. "Of course not, sir. I wanted to personally commend you. Integrity is rare in business. Rarer still when it costs you comfort." His voice softened. "I imagine your firm may not feel like home right now." Amara exhaled a small broken laugh. "That's one way to put it." "I'd like to change that," he said. "Titan is expanding its North American division. We'd be honored if you'd lead our data strategy team. Full executive title. Your vision deserves a stage that respects it." She sat motionless. The city beyond her window glittered. The skyline that once mocked her now seemed to bow. I don't know what to say," she stammered. "Say yes," he replied simply. "You've already earned it." 2 weeks later, Harper & Wynn released an official statement. Polished, cold, and cowardly. They expressed deep regret for unprofessional conduct, but never once mentioned her name. But she didn't need their validation anymore. Her resignation letter was already written, printed, and sealed. When she handed it to HR, she felt lighter. The receptionist who once called her sweetheart, under her breath now couldn't meet her eyes. The firm had built its empire on perception, but perception had changed. The following Monday, Amara walked into Titan Systems' Manhattan headquarters. No one asked her to smile more. No one corrected her tone. She was introduced to her team as Director of Global Predictive Analytics, the youngest and only Black woman to hold that title in the company's history. As she toured the floor, employees from around the world greeted her with nods of quiet respect. It wasn't just a new office. It was a statement, a space she hadn't been invited into but had created by sheer will. Later that evening during a team orientation, someone asked her, "What drives you?" Amara paused. "Truth," she said, "and the responsibility that comes with being seen." Her voice didn't tremble. Her accent, the same one they once laughed at, filled the glass room with warmth. Every syllable was a declaration that she had stopped apologizing for who she was. Meanwhile, Harper & Wynn was crumbling from the inside. Clients pulled out. The firm's board demanded accountability. Diversity panels were hastily formed, but no policy could scrub the stench of hypocrisy. A month later, a journalist from the New York Ledger published a feature titled, "The Voice They Tried to Silence: How One Black Woman Redefined Corporate Courage." The article detailed the timeline, the meeting, the laughter, the recording, and the aftermath. For the first time, Amara's name wasn't whispered. It was celebrated. She read the piece alone in her apartment, not with pride but peace, because the goal had never been revenge. It was visibility. The story spread across social media. Hashtags trended. Hashtag Speak With Your Accent flooded timelines. Professionals across the world, from call centers to C-suites, shared stories of being mocked for their voices, their origins, their difference. Amara's moment had become a movement. 6 months later, Titan Systems hosted its annual Innovation Summit at Lincoln Center. Amara was the keynote speaker. The hall shimmered with lights and cameras. The same industry leaders who once ignored her now leaned forward to listen. She stepped onto the stage in a black tailored suit, calm and radiant under the spotlights. When she began to speak, her accent rang clear, unfiltered, the music of her upbringing, of her mother's prayers and her grandmother's hope. I used to think success meant sounding like everyone else, she began. But every time I hid my voice, I lost a piece of myself. Then one day they laughed at my accent. And that's when I realized they weren't laughing at how I spoke. They were laughing because they feared what I might say. A hush fell across the auditorium. They taught me that silence could be safe. But silence never changed the world. So, if you've ever been told you're too different, too loud, too much, speak anyway. Speak until the walls tremble. The audience rose to its feet, applause cascading through the hall like thunder. Cameras flashed, not for celebrity but for truth. And somewhere, deep inside her, Amara felt her grandmother's spirit smiling. That quiet, stubborn joy of knowing the struggle had not been in vain. In the months that followed, Amara launched a non-profit mentorship program called Accent Forward. Its mission: to empower young professionals of color to lead with authenticity in spaces that once demanded their silence. Applications poured in, hundreds from across the U.S., then thousands from abroad. When journalists asked her what inspired it, she always said the same thing. A meeting where I learned what power sounds like, and what it costs. Harper and Wynn faded from headlines. Ethan disappeared from the industry altogether. But their downfall wasn't the real ending. Her rise was. Because the true revenge of the underestimated is not in destroying others, but in thriving so brightly that even your doubters have to squint. Years later, Amara would look back at that meeting and realize it was never just about her accent. It was about how people weaponize difference to preserve comfort. How rooms built on bias crumble when truth walks in wearing confidence. She often told her men's, don't chase validation, build impact. And when they laugh, let them. Because one day, they'll replay that laughter like a confession. The story of Amara Lewis became more than a scandal. It became a mirror. For corporations. For leaders. For every person who'd ever been told to tone it down just to be accepted. This wasn't just a story about corporate racism. It was a story about the audacity to exist fully, to speak, to challenge, to rise. Because sometimes justice doesn't roar. Sometimes it speaks softly, in a voice with history in every vowel. And that voice, once mocked, becomes the sound of change. If this story moved you, take a second to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more powerful stories that remind us what courage sounds like. Because the world doesn't change when we whisper. It changes when we speak, and refuse to be silenced.